No matter your age, your plan for retirement can start today. From the News Channel 5 Network, this is the Retirement Report.
Good morning. Welcome to the Retirement Report. I'm Hank Parrott, your host. You know, I've been reading a bunch lately about the about baby boomers and about some of the things that are going on with statistically. So one of the things I know they put out some time ago was about 10,000 baby boomers turning 65 every day. Okay, and the baby boomer generation is defined as that between those born between 1946 and 1964. So almost a 20-year period there, 18 years. What I've learned, though, is that the baby boomers, there's from 1957 through 1964, it's actually a bigger amount, if you will. So it's the average of 10,000 per day was spread over the whole 18 years. But in reality, when we look at from 1957 through 64, which is about basically 7 years, at that point, those born in that time, it's going to be like 12,500. So it's going to be 25% actually more. So we've got fewer hitting right now, about half, in other words, around 7,500, and it's going to be up around 12,500. So that's a lot of people turning 65. And one of the things that gets into that is all the different things we talk about, like when do you take Social Security? What about how does Medicaid work? You know, or Medicare rather. Well, how does Medicare work when you turn 65? When's the best time? Is it 62 that you take Social Security? 65, 67, 66, 70? There's so many different ways, hundreds of ways actually, that you can utilize your Social Security benefits, and understanding how those can best benefit you is one of those areas that as you're getting into retirement, heading into retirement, that you need to kind of figure out. And that's one of the things we're going to help you with. The other part of that, just like healthcare costs, how do we cover those? How do we take care of that stuff? Now, you get all these things done. So we're talking about the retirement income analysis that we do each week, right? Well, one of the things that comes into that, we get into investment analysis, we get into, you know, again, the Social Security question, healthcare costs, how those are dealt with, how to make sure you're going to have enough money to maintain your standard living quality of life no matter how long you live, show you what your financial future looks like. These are all things we do with regard to the retirement income analysis. And so I'm going to put it out there again for you. For the first 10 callers to my office, we'll get that up on the screen for you. First 10 callers to my office, 615-376-5325. We'll get basically Tessa's standing by. She'll get your information. She'll send you out a checklist of things to bring to your appointment with me. And one of the things we're going to do, again, show you your financial future, show you based on the things you're doing now, the strategies you're employing now, what that's going to look like for you 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. And we're going to then show you some strategies on how you can improve upon that, all right? So we'll look at your investments, we'll see what kind of maybe little hidden landmines are in there, if you will, what the risks are as well as what the returns and ways that you can improve that. We'll look at Social Security, we'll answer basically all your questions, tax planning, and of course one of the things we're going to be getting in today, estate planning. We'll talk about the differences there between a will and a trust, what's probate about, and other factors like powers of attorney, what you know, how all these documents that you need, what document, I'll get it out, which documents you may need and how that works. 5 essential documents that form the foundation of a good estate plan. So we'll get into that and more. And again, for the first 10 callers, you can get that free retirement income analysis. Again, it's not just a consultation. We're going to do a full comprehensive plan for you. So call the number 615-376-5325. Tess will get your information, send you out a checklist of things to bring to your appointment with me. And when you come in to see me, I'll also give you a copy of my book, 7 Steps to Financial Freedom in Retirement. And one of the chapters in that is Chapter 7, of course, on estate planning. And one of the persons, a good friend of mine, in fact, and my guest today, Russ Cook with Russ Cook and Associates over in Brentwood, Tennessee. And I've known Russ now for over 15 years, and we've been working together with clients. And one of the things there on that Chapter 7 I mentioned on estate planning, we're going to talk about that today. Russ was one of the ones to review that for me, and I really appreciate that, Russ. Thank you, by the way.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me on the show, actually. You know,
one of the things in dealing with clients for the years, we've run into so many different cases, and one of the things I've always is seeing the other side of it, basically. So not only have I seen, you know, what happens when we set up a plan and working together and getting a really good plan for someone, but I've had clients pass away that Russ has done planning for, and then worked with the family with those documents and seeing that it's done exactly what they intended it to do. So that's one of the areas that I've also had clients that, new clients where they've come in for the first time and they bring in their estate planning documents for review, and I've sent stuff to you, and they're many times what they think they have and what they actually have are two different things.
Yeah, that unfortunately can be a gotcha, because these documents can be very complicated. Obviously, if you pull these out and try to read them yourself, they're very, very legalese intensive, and so it's always good to have them reviewed, re-reviewed. Even if they're documents that we prepare for our clients, we like to have the clients come in every couple of years and have them re-review them, because a lot of people forget what they put in these things, and it's really hard to go through them and figure that out just by reading them on your own. And luckily, I don't know if this is a good news or not, but I've been doing this so long that I've seen cases where things have not worked out like the clients wanted when they passed away, and so we like to think that we can bring that experience to bear in the documents that we prepare going forward.
Yeah. This is one of the things when we talk about estate planning, the 5 essential documents, and by the way, again in the book, so here it is, we'll go the book, 7 Steps to Financial Freedom and Retirement, and basics of estate planning. And one of the gentlemen that I had the good fortune of being able to work with as well when it came to the estate planning was Henry Apps. He wrote a book on revocable living trusts. A great guy. He passed away a few years ago. But Henry had spent some time with me and had reviewed the chapter, and he also was quite helpful. One of the things that you get into is understanding what happens with probate. Now, with apps, and of course, Russ, you know as well, we deal sometimes with people from other states as well, or that have property in other states, and how the estate planning works there. And probate can be different in different states. So here in Tennessee, may not be as bad as, say, other states, like California is an example, but at the same time, we've got, it depends on the attorney, it depends on the county you're in, and of course your individual situation is what kind of costs you're getting into. So when we come to estate planning, when it comes to probate, this is one of those areas. So with probate, let's talk a little bit about how probate works, what kind of time's involved, the potential expense that someone can get into when they're having to go through probate, through a will, or how it would work.
Well, and just to kind of talk about that through the lens of a Tennessee resident, basically probate means taking the will down to the courthouse, or if you don't have a will, filing papers to acknowledge that you don't have a will and you're going to use the Tennessee state will to determine how your assets are going to get distributed. And the person that has the job of taking that down and doing that is called the executor if there's a will, or if there's no will, that's called an administrator. And what's involved is you have to hire an attorney to prepare a petition that then describes the will in particularity enough to let the judge know that it is the last will and testament of the client, and you send it to the court. More often than not, you have to go in front of a judge, depending on the situation, and then the judge blesses it as the last will and testament, you move on. The cost and expense, there's usually about maybe $300 to $500 of court fees involved in that. And I know for our office, typically we take a deposit of up to $5,000 to get the process started, because you've got that labor-intensive period of filing and gathering information at the beginning of the administration of the estate.
And the process itself, as far as the time involved. So you file with the court, you get it approved. Now there's another part. What comes next, as far as public filing, for instance, that kind of thing?
Yeah. The next step after the will is filed is that there's what's called a 4-month creditor waiting period. In other words, the court will send out notice to be published in a local paper about the fact this person who's named as executor or administrator is now going to serve as the person handling the estate. And there's a mandatory 4-month period in which you have to wait before you can close an estate. That gives any unknown creditors a 4-month period to file claims against the estate. In our particular situation, it's very rare that we don't know about a creditor, but that's just the law. They tell us keep it open for that period of time. Then once the 4-month period is up, then we usually file what's called a 10-care release. It's a document in which we let everyone 10-care know that this person died, and even though they may not have been on 10-care, you still need the release to close the estate. And then we also prepare some sort of pro forma accounting to send out to all the beneficiaries, get the executor to distribute the funds, and then we can close the estate.
Now, the time frame that you're looking at when you're going from, let's say, from the time the client comes in to the time you're able to even file the first public notice, it takes 4 months. What kind of time are you usually talking there to get through the initial phase?
Well, if you're thinking of just getting from beginning to end.
Well, yeah, we'll go through the steps.
Yeah.
In other words, so let's say I come to see you and I say, okay, Russ, I'm going to open up the estate. Here's the will. So we got to get the necessary paperwork to file with the court for the court to approve before we even get to where we didn't have the 4-month wait.
Yeah. Well, it's court dictated, so obviously you have the meeting with the attorney to prepare the petition, and there's a little bit of back and forth getting that information right. And then once the petition is completed, then you get on the court docket, and that could be, depending on the county, a couple weeks or maybe a month or two. And then once you're on the court docket, you get in front of the judge. So I guess from the very beginning of meeting the attorney to the point where you're actually appointed as executor or administrator, it could be anywhere between a couple of weeks to a month minimum.
So you're looking, typically it's going to be about 9, through the whole process.
Through the whole process is about 9
months.
Yeah. And the courts recognize that after the end of a year, they want you to file a status report because they want to know, why is this estate still open? So most of the time when we talk to clients about state administration, we usually give them a 9 to 12 month time frame for opening and closing, and that's estates where nothing is happening.
Exactly, and that's one of the things we're going to talk. So one of the things here, if everything goes really smoothly, you may be talking, and again, depending on the attorney. I mean, attorneys can charge, differing amounts for handling these things, and so you're talking typically maybe $5,000, maybe more for that, and in addition to the 9 to 12 months to go through that process. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about what happens if something goes wrong and how that can not only add to the time frame but add to the cost, and then we'll talk about ways that whole thing can be avoided, about the pay me now rather later, right? So first we're going to take a break. Join us here. We'll be right back on the Retirement Report.
This is a Storm 5 HD weather update. Sign up for Weather Call at News Channel.